about Dachshund puppies. I'm Katie Saywell. I'm the owner and founder of The Dogs Code. So www.thedogscode.com is where you'll find us. We are a coaching and training company, and we specifically deal with Dachshunds, Dachshunds, Dachsies, Doxies, sausage dogs, wiener dogs, however you want to pronounce them. The ones with the short legs and the long bodies. So tonight is all about Dachshund puppies. So we'll kick off to start with puppies. So we'll go right back to puppy being born. Are 4 stages. So we have a neonatal stage from birth to 14 days. We have a transitional stage, which is 14 to 21 days. And we have a socialisation stage, which is 3 to 12 weeks. And we have an adolescence stage, which is 8 to 48 weeks. The first stage, the neonatal stage, is basically when they're born. So they're born with their ears and their eyes sealed. And the reason for this is because they would be damaged if they were to be exposed to light and sound at that stage. The mum communicates with them through touch. They are born with what's called a rooting reflex. So they can wobble around a bit and they can find mum and they can feed from mum. So that's something that's already ingrained into them. The transitional stage, so this is where their eyes are opening. So this is 14 to 21 days. So when their eyes are opening and they can move away from mum a little bit more. So not necessarily independence as such, but moving away, giving mum a little bit more space. And they can also move slightly away from the actual bedding area to go to the toilet in a different place. So I'm not suggesting that they're going to walk outside and go to the toilet, but a few paces away from mum, away from the bed area, so that they can go to the toilet. The socialisation stage, 3 to 12 weeks, it is critical at this point that puppies are socialised, and that's not necessarily taking them out. Obviously they'd be too young. Starting with exposing them to sounds in the house, so they can hear by this point. They'll be able to hear the vacuum cleaner, they'll be able to hear the washing machine, they'll be able to hear opening and closing of the doors, they'll be able to hear the cat, the dog, whatever other animals it is. They'll be exposed to these things. So these are the things that we don't necessarily think about as being socialisation. The sound of the TV, the sound of the radio, whatever it is, the sounds and the noises that we don't ordinarily think about, but are generally noises in our environments. The adolescent stage, which is generally the point where we become puppy owners, 8 to 48 weeks. So generally you pick your puppies up between 8 to 10 weeks. And obviously what we have to remember is they're in this socialisation stage as well. During adolescence, as with humans, they go through lots of different body changes. They also have fear stages up to 12 to 14 months. In terms of the adolescent, after your puppy's kind of grown and they're maturing, they will have a surge of hormones popped into their bodies around about 6 months. It can be a little bit before, can be a little bit after, anywhere up to kind of 9 months and even longer in some. What's basically happening is that their organs are developing, their hormones are released into the body, and they're getting ready for sexual maturity. So they're getting ready to find a mate and mate. That can also have problems with ownership as well. What can also happen is they can regress as well, so around 6-ish months, and get really scared of just things that they were never scared of before. So it's about the way that we teach them that it's okay, and not putting too much pressure on them in too much of a scary situation that it's going to freak them out for the rest of their lives. So we have to be really conscious of that. When we bring our puppies home, it's scary in itself. So ideally when you bring them back from the breeder, you'd want to be seeing a puppy pack with a puppy contract, with KC registration, vaccinations up to date, with a vet, microchipped, because it's now illegal to sell a puppy without a microchip. And things that you might also want to consider: 4 weeks free insurance. That can come in really handy because you don't know what's going to happen, and vets aren't cheap, as we probably all know. So if something does go wrong, at least your puppy is covered from the minute you're collecting them and bringing them home. But socialisation of your puppy is sight, smell, sound and touch. Okay, so for sight, that's fairly obvious. So they're going to see things, they're going to see lots of different things, and it's really important to introduce them to lots of different people, lots of different clothing, whether it's a female wearing a hat, or a male with a beard, or the postman, the postwoman, everybody and anybody that you can allow them to see, but at a safe distance so they can just see them. So they just have to see them, they don't have to do anything, they don't have to interact with them at any point during this stage. Smell, they've got a 100,000 times stronger sense of smell than what humans have. The world to begin with is all based on scent and putting things in their mouth, so whatever they can taste or chew, that's how they explore. Sound and touch, obviously with sound, I've gone through some of those from the household items. In terms of sound, things right down to the sound that your car engine makes, the sound that your alarm makes in the morning, the sound of your washing machine, because it may be different to where they've come from, or you might have something like a tumble dryer or something like that that makes a different noise, the sound of the kettle, the sound of a pan boiling. These may be things that your puppy hasn't been exposed to, that are general everyday things to us, but everything is a new experience for them. So if we could just remember that everything is new, and then we're kind of setting ourselves up on a good way. Teething. So this is the big one. There's quite a lot of people that have experienced and will continue to experience our little land sharks biting in the early stages when you get them. So I'm just going to go through the biology side of it. So at 2 to 3 weeks their teeth come through, and that ties in nicely with the point that they're moving away from mum a little bit. 6 to 8 weeks they've got a full set of 28 teeth. 8 to 16 weeks their adult teeth start pushing through. So 8 to 16 weeks, so we bring them home between 8 to 10 weeks, and they're just in that prime stage of teething. So most biting is because your puppy's teething. It is excruciatingly painful for them. Be mindful that obviously they are going to be in quite a bit of pain. And when we try and look in their mouths, even just sort of pushing their lip or pulling their lip down, that can be quite painful in itself for them. So it's just something to bear in mind, really. Around 6 months they should have a full set of teeth, which is 42 in total. But they will need to chew. They will need to chew during this period of time. So there's some great chews out of the market that you can get. We find that wetting a tea towel, wet a tea towel, tie it into a knot, stick it in the freezer, and then bring that out and let them chew on that. Also carrots, broccoli, stalks, you can pop them in the freezer and just cool them down, or a frozen Kong. It's just for that soothing, so that they can chew something, but it's something that you've given them rather than them finding themselves. So rather than the table leg, you've given them a piece of carrot, or rather than your hand, you've given them a nice tasty Kong. If you are using a Kong and you are freezing it with something nice and tasty, when you get it out of the freezer, make sure you run it under the tap so that they don't end up with a tongue stuck to it, because that will obviously create you further issues. I wanted to mention puppy parties. So I see quite a lot advertised, and I see quite a lot of puppy free play advertised. Be mindful of this when you are taking your puppies to places like that, just because if it is a free-for-all, then your puppy can get quite scared quite fast. If there's a bigger boisterous dog, or your dog is that boisterous dog, then it can have a massive impact on their socialisation. So rather than building their confidence, it can actually have the opposite effect. If you're going to some sort of puppy party, then ask whether it's contact or not contact. The ones that I'll be hosting and running are non-contact. And the reason for non-contact is because, again, it goes back to what we were saying a minute ago about they just need to see, hear and smell. They don't necessarily need to touch the other dogs, and they certainly don't need pinning down by another dog either, because that can just ruin them within one session. If you want to get in touch with me, then you can do via the website, so www.thedogscode.com. If you haven't taken our quiz, then you can take our quiz on there and you'll get a free report back. Thanks very much for watching, and yeah, take care, and I'll be back soon. So bye for now.